That's right. We have the loud bird because today we are sitting on the patio outside. So let's have some fun. What's going on, everybody? So we are doing our Thursday 5 p.m. live stream hangout. I hope everybody's having a good afternoon. Like I said, we're outside today. I just think the weather's beautiful and we should be outside. So a couple of housekeeping things. Thanks to everybody who so far has participated in the little survey that we've got going over on the YouTube community page. I asked you if you like this time slot at 5 p.m. or if you want me to make it later or whatever, because if more people could watch at a different time, I would be flexible to change it around. So if you have not participated in that survey, please go over and do that on the YouTube community, on our YouTube community page. You'll see it there in our timeline. That would be awesome. And then the other thing is, start thinking about what you want to do for this month's Patreon class. So last month, we really dove deep into pickup winding and like all the parts that go into it and everything. So do me a favor and you can comment on any of the videos or whatever, just and maybe I'll make a post about it on the community page too. What do you want to see? And I don't know if you know this or not, but that class level on Patreon, it doesn't bother me if you just join for 1 month and be a part of a class. Or you can join the mid-level thing and have it all in replay. So, and then the cool part is you get access to all of the classes that we've ever done. So it's pretty cool. So check that out and then, let me know if that's something that you are interested in doing. Okay, so we're gonna go through some Patreon questions, and I see that there are already questions piling up in the chat. Leslie is sitting right here off camera with me. One other piece of housekeeping that we have to do is, because we were talking about wire strippers and beer last week, because I believe Jeffrey actually left us a super chat last week and said, use this money on beer. So I went to the liquor store and I got some Kentucky Coffee Barrel Stout. This is the stuff. We got it in the Master's koozie. And so we're going to go ahead and use the bottle opener, and we're going to, I'll open this one and pass that off to you. I'm going to grab this one and pass that off to you. The other thing I want to mention to you too is, cheers, is vlogs aren't always early, because they're day to day. I shoot them every day and then I release them on Friday at 5 p.m. But today's was early, so I put it up for YouTube members and for Patreon members, just FYI, so you know that. So this is pretty good. This is pretty good. All right, everybody liked my bottle opener. If you're a Patreon member or a YouTube member, you will have already known about that, by the way, and why we are using it as a bottle opener. So let's cruise over to Patreon and let's answer a bunch of questions that came in, and I'm pretty excited about some of these.
Yeah, so since we have a lot of new people, can we talk about that housekeeping? So typically on the lives, that is the advantage to Patreon members too, is that we address your questions first. They get priority. Did you see that lizard? Anyway, they get priority in the live stream. I am grabbing questions as they come in, and we will answer them then after the other topics are covered in the order in which they were received.
Yes, and then usually what happens is we end up running out of time for all the questions at the end. So that's why the Patreon thing and the thing. I think a lot of people misunderstand why we do that, but it's getting
busy.
It's
so fun though.
It's really fun. Yeah, it keeps everything moving.
And we'll stay as long as your super chats come in. And super chats are interrupters.
That's right. Super chat, we stop everything. And that's why Leslie's here too, to moderate that so I don't forget them. Okay, Adam Rohn says, I don't have a question, but that's going to be a hilarious live stream because he really liked my thumbnail about strippers and beer, which if you were here last week, you'll know what that was about. Let's see. Jonathan Barton says, does rust on vintage pickups ruin them? How do you clean it off? I would not clean it off. It doesn't really ruin them. Magnetization of the pull pieces, like on a Strat or a tele, doesn't, I mean, it wears off over time, obviously. But you know, there's companies that actually on purpose age pickups, you know, for like relic work and stuff. So, and it doesn't hurt anything. I wouldn't worry too much about it. This is a big question we get a lot in, like, how do I get the rust off? And I know it looks bad, but once it starts, you can't stop rust. So I wouldn't worry about it too much because it's probably just going to keep coming back. And 90% of the time, it's a result of your body chemistry breaking down the metal. Obviously, you're not leaving your guitar outside in the rain. It's literally your own sweat that's doing it. So it's just going to keep coming back. I wouldn't stress too much about it. He also asks, can you illustrate signal output waveforms and how they interact with various pedals? Get out your whiteboard and red marker. Uh-oh, super chat. Let me answer this real quick first.
Yep.
Leslie and I were just talking the other day about getting an oscilloscope so that we could do exactly that. So that is happening. Larry Perez. Hi Dylan, what's the best way to contact you? I need some particular pickups. Larry, if you are still a Patreon member, which I think you are, shoot me a message on Patreon because that will come straight through. I check those every day. The other way you can get in touch with me is Dylan Talks Tone. Go to the bottom, the little contact form, and that comes to my email. I check those every other day or so, but if I know that you're coming, I will look out for you.
And if you're a Patreon member, you get a discount.
Oh yeah, if you're a Patreon member, you do get a discount. So, on pickups and stuff. So yeah. Cool. Thanks, Larry. Let's see. Ian says, when designing a P90, especially for a baritone guitar, what would be different to a regular P90, and how would you focus a P90 on bass and mids? So, the thing is with a baritone guitar is bass comes pretty easy. Actually, it can become too much. And so I worry more about losing clarity on the low end because low end comes to a P90. That's easy. To answer your question though, I would stay away from 43 gauge wire. I would stay with 42. I would stay away from lower Gauss magnets like A2s and A3s, and I would stay with A5s and ceramics, probably A5s. Yeah, something like that. And that would retain a lot of what you want there, and that would keep the bandwidth of that thing a lot wider, and be more versatile even in a lower situation. I've put P90s, or I've had customers put my P90s in bass guitars, all kinds of stuff. Okay. It got windy all of a sudden. Let's see. How does the gold foil how's the foil in a foil pickup not affect the magnetic field between the pickup and the strings? Or does it? It doesn't. So this is an interesting kind of misconception, that anytime there's metal in a pickup that it's going to affect the magnetic field. when it is a flat plate with no voids in it, eddy current can be introduced. Brass is probably the worst at that. Nickel is not as big of a deal. And that copper foil is not actually really foil, I don't think. It's, well, it has a foil thin thing to it, but there's plastic in there. It doesn't really affect anything. The cool part is that when you start to put holes or any kind of grooves in the pickup, that breaks up that plane and you don't have any effect either, which gold foils usually have some sort of weird mesh top, so I wouldn't ever really worry about that. Let's see. Not a guitar question, but did you ever get your gearbox adjusted? On the steering box on the motorhome? No, I did not. And I have not really worried about it because it drives amazing since I put that steering stabilizer on it. Although it's something that I have been meaning to look at, I just haven't gotten to it. Because it drives so much better now that I haven't really thought about it, or it hasn't stood out to me to do it. Thanks for checking on that, actually, Charles. Which pickup would be super clean and have steel guitar highs? Maybe this isn't realistic because of scale length and string design and slide used on a steel. Tele Flat 6 is great, but there is the next level of highs without getting edgy. Ooh, that's your problem. Is the more highs you throw at this thing, the edgier it gets and more cutting it gets. I would try, before I did anything, I would try a pot change. I would go from 250s to 500s or 500s to a meg, and then just see if that gives you more to play with. And then I would also change your cap to like a 0.015 or a 0.010, something like that. Just pass through a bunch of highs, you know? Yeah, that's what I would do. Go no load on your tone, or maybe, yeah, no load on your tone for sure. Or maybe just a volume knob with no tone. Well, a no load would do the same thing. So yeah, man. And then we got one more question that came in from YouTube, and then we're gonna get into the timeline stuff, or into the chat stuff. I'm trying to go faster because there has been so many questions. I hate missing people, so give me 1 second, because there was one more question that I had to get, and it is guitar finishes. I have a tele project that I'm working on, and I'm planning to stain it. Does the stain need to be sealed before clear coat, or can I start the clear coat once the stain has dried? The stain is water alcohol based. I am not a huge wood finish expert. However, I will tell you my favorite finishes to do are a hand rub stain and a urethane clear, and I don't do anything in between. I just spray the clear. So, and it works awesome. If you will recall the black tele with the B16 on it and the roasted maple neck, that was exactly that setup. That was hand rubbed stain with, and I let it dry for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 days, and then sprayed clear on it, matte finish clear, and then I actually rubbed the clear so that the clear wouldn't be shiny either. That's a little trick that I do as well. So yeah, man. Jeez. People be cranking through these here comments. These little tiny green bugs. Have you noticed? They're like everywhere. Mm-mm. They're bugging me.
Are you ready to start?
I'm ready to start. Let's do this.
I'm going to scroll back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brett Johnson asks, what kind of sanding beam do you use or recommend?
Anything as long as it's flat, and that doesn't bend. So you could actually go to, I don't care if it's radiused. I don't really want a radiused one. You could go to Home Depot and get a box piece of aluminum and just make sure that it's straight and that it's square. When you buy a really good one, the reason they cost more, and it is worth it, is because they actually machine one side of it. They take a fly cutter on an end mill, and they actually flatten one side of it so that it's 100% flat. And I like that over a radius one. I actually don't like radius ones because you don't always need to do everything. Sometimes just hitting one spot or one side of a fret helps. So I don't like a big one, and I also don't like a radius one. But just make sure it's square and it's straight. That's the number one important thing.
You ready for another one?
Yes, yes.
Braden Coughlin says, how hard would it be to put a third tone knob on a Strat so I can control all the pickups?
All the pickups separately. Well, what you could do is you could do a 500 stacked on one of them so that you could have you could do a 500 stacked on one of them so that you could control them. The problem is that stacked pot tapers are always terrible. They just never work really right, and they end up being more of an on and off switch. I've never seen a good stacked pot taper that was really nice and smooth. So my thing is there's a little mod you can do. I will try to put it in next week's vlog because I actually am building a loaded pickguard right now, and I will show you what I do. Basically, there's a little mod that you can do where it makes it to where the neck and the middle pickup are on one tone knob and the bridge pickup is on another tone knob, and then you have the stock locations. That's my favorite, and that's what I do for single hum setups so that you can have the humbucker separate from the other two. Yeah, so for those that aren't familiar, basically a Strat, usually the neck pickup and the middle pickup have tone knobs, but the bridge pickup doesn't have any control. So what I do is I make it to where the neck and the middle are on one knob and the bridge is on another. And it works awesome. Because you don't need hugely different tone from the neck to the middle. The bridge is the one that you really want to do separately. Cool.
Awesome. Next one's not really a question. I just wanted to share so that you wouldn't miss it. Charles Wallace said, your shirts are very nice and I'm getting some more next week.
Oh, sweet. Oh, from the merch store. I was like, you mean my Britney Spears shirt? And
I thought that's what he was talking about at first.
And I was like, no, he's probably not talking about my Biggie Small shirt.
Probably
he's
not.
Probably talking about the Dylan Talks Tone stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, man. We changed it up a couple of times. Like, everybody has cheap t-shirts, and I've been working on every time something nicer comes out that will up the level a little bit, then I just switch it out so that they get nicer. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right. So then Victor Perez, not really a question, more of a suggestion. I wanted to make sure you saw it. You should do the wave analysis with different wood types just to demonstrate with statistical analysis that wood doesn't affect sound on an electric guitar.
So there are ways to do that, and everybody says to do that. The problem is that there are still variables there because I don't know if you know how many different densities of swamp ash there are, how many densities of alder there are. There's 250 or so different species of mahogany. I mean, there's like 5 different kinds of rosewood that people use in fretboards. So, and I'm very excited about this, but I know for sure that Fender is going to be using different materials more in the future. And I know that a lot of other guitar builders are doing the same thing. And what that does is not so much say that it doesn't make a difference. So I'm just going to say this. There's a difference between saying there's a difference between two things, and there's a difference between saying that that difference actually matters. And I really love the fact that the variety of materials that's being used in guitar construction right now is taking that argument away, because they're just using whatever they can get their hands on because of demand and stuff. And the guitars still sound good, so it doesn't matter. Is it different? Maybe, but it doesn't matter. So there you go. I think the people's need to have a reference for one specific material is not accurate, because you can get so many different varieties of the same. I mean, there's different grain densities in the same tree. So, you know, it just doesn't matter anymore. It matters if you want to argue about it, but it doesn't matter in real life. Honestly. So I don't know that I want to go down that road, because somebody's just going to tell me I did it wrong. I mean, maybe we will. It'll get views, but it's not really where I want to spend a lot of time and energy, because I think somebody's just going to tell me I did it wrong. I mean, really, that's what's going to happen.
All right.
Next.
So then, I don't know how to say this name. It's WHSSY. Every time I see that, my brain goes wussy, so I don't know what it means. Hi, Dylan. If I want to put Jazzmaster pickups on a Strat, can I do it without rerouting anything?
If it has a swimming pool route inside, which most Strats these days do, then yes, you can. And I see he commented later that it has a swimming pool route. I just caught that out of the corner of my eye. So yes, you can do that. You might have to give it a little grind on the ends because they're so long. But dude, that's so cool. And I fully support that message. And actually, I think I have a pair of Jazzmaster bobbins with nobody's name on it right now. So if you wanted to order some, I could probably knock those out pretty quick, because I'm pretty sure I have a set of Jazzmaster bobbins that haven't been used for anything. Because, here's why. There's a few pickups that I could not stand making because my pickup winder was a pain in the butt. So I never really made them, and the parts just sat around. Jazzmaster pickups, P-bass pickups, jazz bass pickups, super annoying to make on my winder. However, I got a new one. So you can watch tomorrow's vlog and learn more about that if you want. Otherwise, it comes out tomorrow. And yeah, I got a new pickup winder. So, and there will be more on that coming up. But I just wanted to drop that little tidbit.
So then David Kamholtz asked, if A5s are better than A3s, why did Fender start with A3s in the 50s? Was it cost, or have tastes just changed?
I
don't know if we can answer why for another company either, but...
Well, I can kinda.
Okay.
So, in the 50s, it was availability. That's 80% of the time. The other 20%, well, 80% it was cost. Cost and availability, 80%. We'll lump that together. I'm pretty sure if Leo Fender lived today, he would drive a Prius or like a Nissan Versa or something. I think he was cheap, to tell you the truth. Anyways,
as were a lot of innovative people.
Yes,
really.
It's true, because they didn't care. They didn't care about anything. They just wanted to design stuff. So 80% price and availability. But the other thing too is you got to remember that he was also adapting stuff from other technologies. So he took a steel pickup, like a lap steel pickup, and put it in a guitar. So making adjustments. Now, what I will tell you is,
got a super chat. That's funny. Go ahead.
in modern day Fender, I happen to know that they have over the years accumulated a book that looks pretty much like the Sears catalog or the JCPenney catalog, like this thick, and it has about 2,800 different wind variations and magnet variations for all of their guitars, because they pretty much never repeat. So if it says we came out with a new pickup, they didn't just take a new pickup or a pickup from another guitar and relabel it. They adjusted a little, they came up with a new thing, and they put it in the new guitar. It's gonna hit 3,000, I would imagine, in the next couple years, because they change them all the time. Wind gust. Super chat. Adam Rohn. I think I know what you're gonna say, but is there any reason to shield the routing of my Parker before I drop in my pick guard? Sorry for the question. Probably not. So for everybody that doesn't know, Adam Rohn has a Parker Nightfly, and he has Brad Angove made him a metal pickguard for it. So your shielding is built in, right? So yeah, I think you should be good. Thanks so much for the super chat too, Adam. I appreciate that very much.
Cool. You ready for another one?
Yeah.
Laughing Daffodil says, I'm curious if Dylan has anything in particular to say about using two P90s with a blend knob instead of a three-way.
I've never messed with that much, but I've done it with basses, and I think it would be cool. I should do that on something. Just to do it. I don't know that it's it would give you an adjustability that you don't have. Do it and tell me how practical you think it is, because unless you use the detent in the middle, it would be sort of a pain to go from like neck to middle to bridge. We should probably put that in.
You want me to do that? It's going to be loud.
That's okay. I would rather have it be loud than get ripped off my motorhome.
Okay. Are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
You're still talking. All right.
Go ahead.
So this one is a little bit out of order, but I was trying to clarify his question, so I just want to go ahead and cover it because I think we got through what he wanted to know. So David Kornblatt asked, so there was a few questions. So basically I think he's asking, do you have an opinion or any experience with the Seymour Duncan Alnico 4 humbucker pickups?
Yes. Yes. There's a couple of things that I like Alnico 4 pickups in. One of them is lipsticks, and maybe that's about it, really. Leslie's putting the awning in. Hang on. The breeze is coming. They're like, it's actually really nice out, but what's happening, now we have a helicopter. I saw a drone a few minutes ago. What's happening though is it's really nice, and then all of a sudden a breeze will come and kick up, and then it'll stop. And that gusty kind of stuff, it's hard on RV awnings, and I don't want to get my my awning ripped off. Okay, yeah, I don't have much opinion about the A4 stuff, because I just don't. Maybe I should mess with it some more, and I probably will, because I'm doing some other testing lately. But I don't have anything. I don't have anything brilliant to say. I hate to say that, but I don't have anything brilliant to say about it. Nothing that would be a contribution that would be meaningful.
Everybody said the chopper was louder than the awning, and it was a lot further away. It wasn't even close.
It was like
Yeah,
this big. It was
really
way
far
over
away.
there.
All right. Next question. Victor Perez. Is the guitar gauge a variable taken into consideration when designing pickups, or is it something that can be adjusted with distance?
The guitar gauge?
That's what it says. G-A-G-E.
Does he mean string gauge, maybe?
That would make sense.
Yeah, I would put string gauge in that sentence, and it would make sense.
I'm just copying and pasting.
Did somebody say get to the chopper?
No,
I think somebody
said
should
the
have.
chopper.
The chopper. Get to the chopper. Anyways.
You just said it.
Anyway.
Can't blame it on somebody else when you
I
do
just
it.
saw something and,
Whoops.
And you spilled your beer.
Party foul.
Party foul.
He meant string gauges.
Okay.
That's somebody else answering for the person, though. So let's assume we're all assuming string.
I think we would assume string gauges. I don't. I do not take it into account when I'm designing pickups. I think. I mean, obviously with a bass you would, because literally the physics are different. Like there's more mass to deal with, so that's a thing. Zoltan says, or scale length.
Yeah.
Scale length's a tough one. I don't put any thought into scale length because in my situation. Now, if you were designing a guitar, so I've been talking to some people lately who are like at one of the big companies who, when they take things into a consideration, building something from scratch, they look at all of that. But when I'm dealing with making a pickup that sounds good and I don't know what it's going in, then I don't worry about it. I just make the bass line really good. Because if you put a B90 in a Strat, it's going to sound different than if you put it in a tele because of the location of the pickup. If you put a DAF, for example, in a Les Paul, it's going to sound different than a SG, even though the scale length is the same, because the placement of the pickup within the scale length is different. So those are some examples of where me, in the aftermarket, I don't design that tight because I don't know where the pickup is going. But I do know Paul Reed Smith, Fender, Gibson, all those folks, when they're coming up with a new design of something, they take all of those things into consideration. But they can adjust.
Because it's specific.
Yes. Yeah. And they can adjust all the parameters, and it's going into a thing that they're designing a final product. My stuff's going into I don't know what. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And our most popular pickups are like that. So like our P90s and our humbuckers, our center punch humbuckers, I don't know what they're going in. I mean, they could go in a single hum Strat. They could go in a Les Paul. They could go in a SG. They could go in a RG. They could go in a Gem. They could go, all kind of things. Now you're talking about all kind of different scale lengths and different pickup placements. Pickup placement to me is the number one thing that's super fun when you start changing up guitars. Like Les Paul to an SG, for example, the pickup placement is different. That's why they sound different. So it's really, really cool stuff.
You ready?
Yeah.
Ivan said he just got the notification.
Hey,
so
Ivan,
now we know, like,
we're live.
34 minutes in, like, okay.
I'm just glad he's here.
Showing up. Yeah. All right. Michael Domschat. I don't know.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Single, 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 or hum single, single. Why?
I mean, that's two different animals. I have a single Strat. My number one favorite setup is single hum, though. You take our Classic 5 or our Hot 5 Strat pickups, put them in a Strat in the neck and the middle position, and then put our center punch in the bridge, and then do that thing with the separate tone knob on the bottom knob. Whoo, man, that is the setup. That is the setup. with a coil split, separate tone knob on the bridge, 5-way switch, single hum. Ooh, man, that is the jam right there. That is the jam.
Oh, he said I did pronounce it right. So out of order, but I just saw somebody say, "Hey dude, I stopped by to say thanks for your videos. I was able to rewire my own guitar and save myself a bunch of money. Much thanks from this noob."
Dude, that's so cool. We've been getting a few of those lately. People have been saying that they did a repair job or they did something. I've also been seeing people saying I've been scared to do any fret work until lately.
Cool.
So that's awesome. Honestly, I've been scared to do it till lately too. I mean, I do it, but
it was never your favorite thing, and now you're kind of excited.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, that file, man. I know that file is not cheap, but man, it is. It takes the stress out of it, and you're just like, oh, you put a Sharpie on there, you run that file on there, and you're like, I can actually see it get awesome. You'll see tomorrow in tomorrow's vlog. You'll be able to watch it just like happen. So cool.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next question. Oh, I went over, so I'm going to tell you his name, but it doesn't fit. How come they can make longer comments than me? I guess because I'm copying their name. Simpson 20 asks, I upgraded my guitar with Seymour Duncan pickups. Now my humbucker cuts out, but I can get it to come back by pressing my tone knob. I checked the solder point and it is good. Should I start by replacing pots?
No. If you touch your tone knob and it comes back.
Pressing, not touching. Pressing my tone knob. I don't know.
You have something touching that's not supposed to touch. Touch it. And when you push on that, it breaks something and makes it work. So I would, first question, do you have a bunch of shielding tape and junk in your cavity? If you do, rip it all out, then see if it works.
That was his first question. Did you have more questions, or was that the number one question?
Let's go.
Okay. Darren Lutz asks, why are electrics not shaped to be comfortably played while sitting?
Because nobody holds them right when they play them. That's really the reason. A Les Paul is meant to be played in the classical position. So, the fat part goes in your crotch. So everybody wants to play them like flat and have that little dent go on your, if you're on your thigh. But the real way you're supposed to classical hold a guitar is you put the fat part, the lower bout, in your crotch, and then the guitar's like on a 45-degree angle. Don't knock my beer over. And you're playing like kind of like this on an angle. Then it's very comfortable. You look like a dork. It's not very rock and rolly, but that's actually how you're supposed to play. Like, that's why a Les Paul is shaped like that. That's why a lot of guitars are shaped like that, actually. But that's the answer, because people hold them wrong. So stand up and use a strap. That's what I would do. Actually, if you play a V like that, where you like put the V where the lower part of the V goes like between your legs and then underneath your leg, and then the V like sticks in your crotch, it's the most comfortable way to play a V sitting down. It is. It's true.
Okay.
Just saying. I mean.
Next question. Edward Kozik says, would love to hear your opinion on noise canceling systems like the Eilich, Sir backplate systems, the EBMM silent circuit, dummy coils, etc.
I have a video coming on that. I have not played with them a lot. I am of the opinion that if it hums, it hums. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I have been tossing around experimenting with that and even maybe offering a dummy coil, but I'm working on that. But I want to make a video about it. And what's probably going to happen is we're probably going to make a blind test and put it on Instagram and see if people can hear the difference between the two. Yeah,
Okay. So another one that runs out and over. So I just unmuted us.
I have been.
My bad. I was losing my protective keyboard. Telequacker, I love that name. Says, I bought a new Player Series Jaguar. Some notes have an extra dead sound, a weird hollow resonance. It goes away when I push the neck joint hard against my body. How to fix this? A new neck?
Put a shim in it. No. Loosen the neck bolts. Is it Jazzmaster?
New Player Series Jaguar.
Oh, Jaguar. Okay, so press the neck against your body. So make sure the next time you change your strings, loosen the neck screws and make sure that, first of all, if there is a shim in there, that it's in the right spot, like that it's in the back of the neck pocket, and then when you tighten the neck down, don't over tighten it, but you don't want the neck to move. So run the screws in tight, and then just take your screwdriver and just go like this much more. Like, it doesn't need to be tons of torque, just this much more, and make sure that they're all even. Because if you're pushing on your guitar and it's changing the sound a lot, then yeah, there might be something loose. The other thing too is if it's a Jag, it's got that funky bridge. I don't know if the Player Series has that or not. Make sure, if it has the weird Jag Jazz tremolo thing, make sure that the spring in there is not crooked or that it's freely moving, because that can give you some weird sounds too, and it can be inconsistent. I've had that happen. Had it happen on Strats too. Like, the rear springs will make some kind of weird harmonic noise, and you go back there and you realize that one of them's like halfway popped out, and you pop it back in, and then it doesn't move around as much, and it changes the sound. Cool.
All right. Big Tone says, Dylan, what is the difference between a pickup with a long magnetic blade V versus individual magnetic rods? Do rods have drop-offs while bending strings, or is it a fallacy?
I mean, I never heard Stevie Ray have a dead note. You know, when you look, I've had these illustrate. We had this in a bunch of videos before. The simple answer to your question is that the shape of the magnetic field is different, right? It is a different thing. And the sound between the notes, the interaction between the notes is different, because the inductance in the pickup happens differently when you have that solid bar versus when you have the individual pull pieces. Does that mean that one's better than the other? Not really. It just means that typically, honestly, you're going to have better note definition with pull pieces than you are with a blade. But a blade has a thing too. I want to do a video about that too, actually. I was making some blade pickups this morning. I was making some Quattros this morning, and I was thinking of that exact same thing, actually, that I need to talk about that more. Because I have used those diagrams to explain this before. It is a completely different shape, and it ends up being bigger. Like, the magnetic field ends up being a lot bigger with a blade. Because it does, you're right, it has little bumps. Like, if you were to look at a Strat pickup,
two super chats, you better talk fast.
Yeah, you'd have a bump. So there is a difference for sure. Oop, Jason Lindholm. He says, I have a Squire offset tele Sweet. Squire offset tele. Oh, yeah, that's like a Jazzmaster thing with a tele pickups in it, right? Modded humbucker neck, middle bridge. Single coils have volume loss in position 4. Middle is a Strat pickup. That might be the combination of pickups that you have, but it also might be that one is out of phase. If you've modded it, then you might try humbucker, neck, middle, and bridge. You've got something out of phase in that position. So one of those pickups, the single coil might be wired backwards. Flip the wires and see if it changes. That's the number one thing I would try. Oh, Ed Billy B and Blues from that other YouTube channel. What's up, dude? Hi, Mrs. Tone.
Now we know where he came from.
Yeah, exactly. And Dylan, I have a noise question. I have a tinnitus frequency from my amp, but I can EQ it out of my PA. I don't understand this super chat. I hate to not be able to understand a super chat.
Sounds like he has a frequency that's coming from his amp, but he can EQ it out.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he probably wants to know where you think it's coming from, right?
Yeah. Tubes.
He said I test tapped tubes. He said tubs, but I'm assuming he meant tubes.
I would still think that would be tubes, though. Any kind of thing like that usually is tubes. That would be my guess. Or you have a cap going bad that is not filtering something. But to tell you the honest truth, I don't know enough about amps to give you a good answer. But that's what I will say is, that's the first thing I would check. I would check to make sure that your caps aren't blowing up, your filter caps, and that you, and not knowing much more about your amp. Also, I would also check your tubes or your tubs. Tubes.
Check your tubs.
Tubes, by the way, are the only thing, pretty much, that it's worth tap testing. Because when you tap them, they make noises and they do different stuff, and you can tell if they're bad, kind of. Yeah. And carbon fiber. You can test tap carbon fiber.
Yeah, he said tube, maybe bias.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. I don't know. Anytime an amp has a weird noise like that, to me, it's either a tube problem or it's either that or a filter cap problem. Those would be the two things that I would default to. That would be, yeah.
So Laughing Daffodils just called us out. So the question that I asked you about big tone, you only answered the first part. The second part was, do rod magnets or pole pieces have drop-offs that blades avoid?
In theory, sort of, but I don't call them drop-offs.
The drop-off?
They actually, to me, they separate the notes better, if that makes sense. To me, it's not a drop-off. It's actually like a note separation, which I personally like. Definition between notes is a big thing for me. Big thing. Music Man 21065. Oh, yeah.
That was in the original.
That's an awesome amp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that part.
I think we got hung up on trying to understand the question. Sorry about that.
Oh,
All
no
right.
worries.
So next up, we have Windsurfed Maui asks, can I coil split 2 humbuckers and using toggle switches use any as a single coil or combine 2 or 3 in series as a humbucker or super humbucker?
Heck yeah, dude. That's totally cool. So I used to do a thing where I took one humbucker and I put a 5-way switch on it. I did it in a cigar box. It was really super fun. And I made it to where you could have a humbucker, you could coil split it, you could run it in parallel, or you could run one coil or the other coil. And then if you have two of them together, then you can run PRS, I think, does outer coils and inner coils, which is really nice because that gives you hum canceling single kind of situation in the middle. That's a really cool thing. The sun is brutal and it is all right, there we go. I'm still shaded in my face. Sorry about that.
The camera doesn't do that. The shade does that.
I know. I thought if I'm... Oh, right.
Wow.
Mr. Camera Guy. Oh, I got a new camera this week, too, by the way. More on that next week. Cool. Next.
Brett Johnson suggestion would love a video on nodes / pickup placement.
We did that.
All right.
We did that about 7 or 8 months ago. We went to Guitar Center actually and got a Les Paul and an SG and really dove into that. That was actually a super cool thing. But I will talk about it again if you want, and we could dive into that again. That's a great subject. I love that subject because people want to complain about stuff or argue about like tone wood and stuff, and really this is the kind of thing that makes so much more difference than any of those little minute changes. Way bigger swing at the tone. And that's a great question, and it is a great thing to think about when you're playing different guitars. Don't just think about... So 2 things that people overlook. You know, you get in a forum and somebody will be like, don't put humbuckers in your tele, just get a Les Paul, blah, 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 or whatever, right? Well, scale length and pickup placement are different, 2 completely different things in those two guitars. So awesome. So I wish more people would put more thought into that before saying stuff like that.
All right. Oh, I went over. This is a question from Jeffrey McRickard.
Yep.
He said,
he's beer guy.
Dylan, I have a thin line tele. When I strum the low E, it feels like there's not much resonance and sounds kind of dead. Is that because it's semi-hollow, or could it be something else?
It's probably a setup thing. You've sent me pictures of that guitar before, so that I would make sure, I don't know if it has 6 saddles or if it has 3, but I would make sure that the saddles are set properly, and what I mean by that is that they're tight, that the little set screws in them aren't loose, that you don't accidentally have a little gap between the saddle and the bridge where it sits, you know, because you could have, like, one of the things that can happen, like on a 3 saddle tele, for example, is you could, you know, a 3 saddle tele has a screw on each side of the saddle, and depending on how it's sitting in there, you could loosen one, and that saddle pin is not actually, the little pin that it sits on is not actually touching the bridge, so you're like losing complete contact, which would lose, you know, that would make it feel dead. So depending on...
So it has 3 saddles.
Yeah, so just make sure that everything is adjusted correctly. I would just really go through setup on it, and then if it is not the saddles, then I would also check the nut, because those are the 2 things, man, that'll kill tone on a guitar faster than anything.
Super chat.
Oh, sweet. Scrap Iron 22, thank you so much. Can you clean up muddy pickups with adjustable pull pieces? If it's a humbucker, you might be able to, because then you can adjust them closer on one side than the other, and actually that changes a lot. Like if it's like this, you know what I mean? Like humbucker and like sort of adjust it like that. But probably not actually muddy. It's just going to make part of it louder. And also, when we're speaking about nodes, antinodes, if it's the neck position and you raise the screws, that's going to give you more low frequencies. If it's the bridge position and you raise the screws, it's going to give you more high frequencies. So it just kind of depends where it is in the guitar. But probably not. Chances are, muddy pickups are a really hard thing to undo. Like, except for pickup height. Play with your pickup height, because if they are not high enough, if they are too low, you will lose that. That's one of the things I want to do when I get an oscilloscope. My friend Jimmy showed me this, where you can see on an oscilloscope like the perfect how to measure the pickup height, because you can watch the signal get to a spot where it's like the strongest, and then you get it too close and it goes away, and you get it too far and it goes away. It's kind of cool. Yeah, pretty cool.
Big Tone asks, do all the windings on a single coil pickup sense the sound, or is it a percentage of winding near the top part of the coil near the strings?
Ooh, that's a great question. Okay, so pickups do not sense sound. They do not sense sound. So what they do, all a pickup does, it's a transducer. It takes one energy and it converts it to another type of energy. So it takes the motion of the string and it converts it to an electrical impulse. It's the opposite of a motor. A motor takes an electrical impulse and turns that into motion. This is the opposite of an electric motor. So you take the kinetic energy of the string and it's moving. So it's not sensing sound. It's just taking the kinetic energy of the string, and inductance in the pickup causes an electrical impulse to happen within the coil. Now, you could really split hairs and really dive into this and understand things about how the strength of the magnet and the distance from it and all that make this inductance happen in different parts of the coil more than in others. But that's really getting into super wacky engineering design stuff. But for the purpose of your question, it doesn't sense sound as much as it does just converts that energy from one to the other. That's important to know because it's not a microphone. In foreign countries, they actually call pickups microphones, but they're not, because a microphone takes air energy and changes it to an electrical impulse. But that's completely different. That's a percussive type of deal, like an acoustic guitar. An acoustic guitar is a drum. An electric guitar is an electric transducer. You use two completely different kinds of energy transfer. And that is why people argue about tone width so much, because they don't understand that an acoustic guitar is a drum. It's not, it's a drum. It's a percussive instrument. And an electric guitar is not a percussive instrument in the same way. Yes, you strike the strings, but that motion gets converted to energy. It does not get converted to sound. There's a difference. Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah, super cool.
Mike
That's a great question.
Sokola says, I have a late 90s PRS standard. Is there anything I can do with my existing pickup to get more volume when using my coil split? Not really. Not really. I'm surprised that you have a PRS that you have that problem, because they have a weird, well, your guitar might not have it, but
PRS has a funky filter system that they use with I think it's a resistor and a cap. Sort of like a volume mod between coils, more or less. But yeah, I mean, the way the pickup is wound ultimately determines how much volume drop there is when you pull the knob. Yeah, that's why I like our center punch so much. But we literally had to design the coil that way. You can't really adjust it or anything. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Rob Hag asks, how much does a middle humbucker pickup make on a Les Paul? On a something MIJ Les Paul? I don't know if that means anything. How much does a middle humbucker pickup make? I don't know what that question means, so I'm just sharing it with you.
I don't either. How much difference does it make?
How much does a middle humbucker pickup make?
I don't know.
I don't know if he's
They sound
asking
cool.
for like a number. I don't know.
They sound cool. Yeah.
I don't know. All right, if he can clarify, that'd be cool. I'll catch it.
We are at it
Headbang
now.
Friday says, is the quote F spaced unquote really important?
So F space is 53 millimeters, and a bridge not F spaced, it depends on the pickup. So vintage space humbuckers are 49.2. I would not put that in the bridge position of a Fender. You have different measurements. So you have 49.2, which is a vintage Gibson, which I would not put there. You have a 50 millimeter, which I would also not put there. You have a 52 millimeter, which I would put there. That's what I'm putting in a Strat tomorrow. And then you have a 53, which is F spaced. So in our world, we put 52 millimeters in Strats all the time. And it seems fine. Nobody really ever has an issue with it. I mean, if we really want to get technical about it, go look at the neck pickup on your Strat and tell me that all the strings line up.
MIJ means made in Japan. Thanks,
Yeah,
Andrew.
I knew that.
I didn't.
Yeah, I knew that, but I didn't understand the question about the pickups. So, but yeah, that's a good question. 52 mil. So if you order one of our bridge pickups, then you'll get a 52 mil pickup, and you could put that in that guitar, and it wouldn't be an issue, in my opinion.
Ready?
Yep.
Seth Presley says, to Pleck or not to Pleck? That is the question.
So there's a lot of argument about this.
We have a cool video about it, I know.
We do, because I went to Atlanta and had Scott show me how it worked. It was amazing. Here's what I'll tell you. The Pleck machine can do a fret job far better, far more accurately than any human being could ever do, if the operator knows what they're doing. You can run a machine and screw up anything, but if the operator knows what they're doing, if they have experience, and most of them do, because Joe, actually, the guy that invented them, actually flies out there and trains the people how to do it. And they're actually supposed to like do a bunch of guitars before they ever offer it to the public and stuff. It's supposed to be really good. You know, you're supposed to have good training on it and stuff. That being said, it's a CNC machine, but it gets down to a thousandth of a millimeter or something ridiculous. I mean, and that sounds ridiculous, but even if I'm wrong, whatever it really is ridiculous. 100% accurate, and I would have all of my guitars plecked at Righteous Guitars in Atlanta, or wherever you go, but that's where I would go, and I know they have experience. It's amazing, and they can set your nut. They can slot your nut perfectly. Everything. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's worth $200 or whatever it costs.
All right, so Jonathan Barton asks, Could you make a pick guard that has an adjustable placement so that you could slide a P90 closer or farther from the neck bridge? Neck or bridge, neck /
Yeah,
bridge.
but it would look stupid and you'd be totally not rock and roll by doing that. That being said, it does sound different depending on where the placement is. So like an early Les Paul Special with 2 P90s in it has the pickup really close to the neck. And then late 59 and beyond, it's like a 1/4 inch away, and it sounds different. I think the
Super
neighbors
chat.
are smoking weed again. I can smell it. I'm looking for the strippers. Where are all the... Oh my gosh. Classic one. Oh yeah. From Blazing Saddles. Oh, Jeff, leave it to you to bring up Blazing Saddles. That's pretty funny. That's pretty awesome. I was gonna bring out my strippers and show them to you, but I forgot them.
The beer one over the strippers.
Yeah, and the bottle opener. The bottle opener is pretty cool. What I'm gonna start doing, just FYI.
Did you answer the last question?
I did.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm going to probably start putting this stuff after we do the tests. I talked about doing this before, never really started doing it, so I think we're gonna start doing it. If you order from Dylan Talks Tone, like pickups and stuff, not merch. Merch doesn't ship from here. But if you order pickups or whatever, chances are it's possible that I might just throw some random stuff in with your order, so that it's not piling up around here. Like this is for a tele, so I wouldn't, if somebody ordered a set of tele pickups, maybe I would throw this in with it. But I'm going to start doing that to kind of curb the amount of random stuff that we have building up.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think I got some pickups left. I've got some, got a wireless system. Yeah, so order something. I might put something cool in there.
So I had to cut the name off again because it's a long comment. So Laughing Daffodil said, that reminds me of a question I should have asked earlier. 21 fret versus 22 fret Fender, 22 fret versus 24 fret PRS. The only difference is a few millimeters on the neck pickup. Does it matter?
Yeah, man, that changes. That changes the sound for sure. Pickup placement is a big, big deal. It is. It's a big deal. But it also depends on the scale length. So, yeah, it also depends on the scale length because those nodes are a percentage of the whole scale length. So you can't just say, for example, a 25-inch scale length PRS with a 24 fret neck is not going to sound the same or not going to have the exact same pickup placement as a 21 fret tele because the scale length is different. Well, if you did a 24 fret tele and you did a 24 fret PRS, you couldn't say that there would be comparable pickup placements because the nodes are different lengths because the scale lengths are different lengths by a 1/2 inch. So that all matters. Yeah, that's really cool.
So Telequagger says, when are y'all doing the fat finger video?
You should go to Patreon right now or become a YouTube member. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Next up, we have Steve Apez is my best guess. Sorry about that. Hey, Dylan, I'm considering adding a Bigsby to my Gretsch Junior
Tuesday.
Jet like you did a year ago. Would I be able to keep the stock wraparound bridge and use the Bigsby with that?
No, it doesn't work. I tried that. It slides around on it too much. It doesn't work. And it's yeah, it doesn't work. And actually, I also tried using that, turned into a big headache. I also tried using a different bridge on there, but the problem is a wraparound bridge, it's got wider stud spacing than a tune-o-matic bridge, so you can't do that either. So that's why I used that funky one with the rosewood bottom, and then I had to notch it out so that it would fit on there right. It turned into a little bit of a headache, but it actually came out awesome.
So we're gonna go ahead and Rothby Kirkendall has a question, and he's still having a problem with YouTube. So we're gonna treat his like a super chat because he PayPal'd you last time.
Oh my gosh.
Remember that?
Yes.
I was just wondering if there's a chart or graph that shows nodes and antinodes for a tele 21 fret.
There are. You would have to Google that, and if I do a video on that, I'll put it in the video. That being said, I think they're more pictorial than anything, but basically, just it's not that hard to figure out. So you have the 25.5-inch scale, then it's half, then it's half, then it's half, then it's half, then it's half. That's all it is. Up to the fifth dimension is not the right word. Fifth, what is it called? Fourth or fifth. Anyway, order. They say order. They say fifth order. So you have your whole scale length, then you have your 12th fret, then you have half, then you have half, then you have half, like that. So basically, just measure. You could just measure it, because that's pretty much what it does. You could just take a piece of paper, which would basically give you the same thing, and just take 25.5 inches and draw a straight line, and then cut that in half, then cut that half, and then cut that in half. And that would basically give you, within reason. And to tell you the truth, if you find a drawing of it on the internet, that's going to be exactly what it is. Is it going to be 100% accurate to the science? Probably not, but that's going to get you super close.
He said, is it just division?
It is. That's all it is. It's I don't even know how to explain it. It's like you have one node, then you split it in half and you have two, then you split that in half and you have four, like that. It's super simple, really. I mean, within reason enough to know that you're not going to put the pickup in a super dead spot. That, like if you're designing a guitar from scratch and you're, like, at least you won't have it in a dead spot. Is it going to be oscilloscope perfect? Probably not. But if you find a drawing, like I said, if you Google it and find a drawing, that's all it's going to be, is a picture of it like that. Pretty much.
Cool. Zoltan says, what actually causes mud?
Not having any highs? Your knob turned all the way down? No, I'm being a jerk. So filter. Anything that acts as a filter, a low pass filter, in your guitar circuit. Resistance, capacitance, those are going to be your two big ones. The places they can happen. One, in the pickup itself. It can happen when you have a very high resistance pickup because the wire gauge is low. Well, let's talk about that in a minute. So that's actually a capacitance thing. So when resistance is high, you lose high frequencies because it acts as a filter for other reasons. When you have capacitance in a pickup, it acts as a filter because it's actually called capacitive loss. You have two wires that lay next to each other and they kind of just like lose signal into each other, and the first thing to go is highs. That can be caused by two things. One, if the wires are perfectly laid next to each other versus scattered a little bit, but that's not that much big of a deal. The bigger deal would be the diameter of the wire, because you have more tiny wires laying next to each other, you're going to have more capacitance than if you had fewer bigger wires. Okay, that's one thing. And then the other thing would be the thickness of the insulation on each piece of wire. So if you have two pieces of 43 gauge wire or 42 gauge wire, but they have really thick insulation, now they have some distance forced between them because the insulation is thick, that's going to have less capacitance. When you have thin insulation and they're stuck together closer, that's going to have more. Yeah. You could get into also the material of the insulation, having electrolytic characteristics. And then when you get into the rest of your guitar, adding resistance to your guitar is bad if you want to retain highs. So the more pots, the more resistors, and the more caps you put in a guitar, because it's a passive instrument, in a passive instrument. Now, EMGs, that's a whole nother thing because you got an amplifier in there doing other stuff. But when we're dealing with a passive guitar, those pickups make a sound, or they convert the vibration into electrical impulses, right? But they're tiny, 300 millivolts, no current, really super fragile. Like, pickup signal is very, very fragile. So then when you add resistance to it by putting a pot in your stream, or capacitance by putting a capacitor in your stream, or a resistor, then everything that you add, every little piece that you add into there, takes away from that very fragile and very, very small voltage that you're trying to make with the pickup. So a guitar with 5 pots in it is going to have less tone than a guitar with 2 pots, because you've added all that resistance. When you put a volume mod in a guitar, it doesn't make highs better when you turn the volume down. It actually takes away lows to make you think the highs are still there. Like, it's a filter. Every component in a passive guitar filters away sound. What people do is they strategically filter away sounds that they don't want, and they leave the ones they do want. But the end result is still the same. You have less than what you started with, not more. I could rant about that all day, because people, that's a thing. That's a thing.
All right. So my foreign language names are bad. So I'm just going to say this is from P.F. Patrick. Do I need to ground my aluminum taped pickguard with a single wire directly to my guitar's main ground point?
Yes. Otherwise it doesn't
easy.
work as a shield.
So Dennis says, how do some pickups seem to be microphonic? I'm assuming that was based on the conversation you had earlier.
I don't know, but so the reason a pickup is microphonic is when pieces in it. Oh, we talked about pickups not being microphones.
Correct.
Okay, so this is really fun. So this is really a fun thing. So the reason a pickup becomes microphonic, it is not a microphone, but it can become a microphone. So here's what happens. The way a microphone works is there's a diaphragm on top. If you ever take a microphone apart, there's this like little plastic bubble, right? Like a cheap dynamic microphone from Amazon. Take it apart, and there will be like this little plastic bubble on top, and that plastic bubble will vibrate, right? And then what it does is it moves a coil that then vibrates, sort of like your string, and then it becomes electricity. So what happens with a pickup is, when something in there gets loose, then the thing starts vibrating, not the string. So the top of the pickup starts vibrating, and it screws with the magnetic field separately, and becomes a microphone. Really cool. It's really cool. Jeff's got another super chat. Jeff, thanks. Dale and I may have asked this in the past, but I can't remember. Which of your Strat pickups are going to get me the closest to some Texas specials? Hot Fives. Hot Fives for sure. Those, yeah, that's going to get you that proper Stevie Ray growl. Yeah, hot 5s. I've been making a lot of those lately. Those are my favorite.
All right. So then WHSSY.
Thank you for the super chat.
Shouldn't make me think of wussy. It is without the vowels, a tribute to Wayne Hussey. So just for future reference.
Right on.
They don't know how to pronounce it either. But how is the Fiberbird going?
The Fiberbird is in process. I have ordered some stuff for it that has not come in.
And in addition to that, they also asked a subsequent question how you were going to deal with the sharp edges, or how you've dealt with the sharp edges.
I have a plan.
Yeah.
I have a plan. I don't know if it's going to work, so I don't want to say it out loud yet. But I have a plan, and it's going to be way cool if it works. Like, way cool. So I don't want to say anything yet, because if it fails, I don't know. This whole thing, man, is like, I had this idea in my head, and then I'm like, okay, is it gonna even be anything? Is it literally gonna work at all? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that isn't a concern, and I have an idea. And I spoke to some other people, engineering wise, trying to figure out ways to do it, and I think I have an idea, but I'm not 100% sure.
All right.
But I'm working on it.
Jeffrey McRickard asks, any suggestions on where to get custom guitar bodies? I want to do a build influenced by Tom DeLonge ES333, but a Fender style. So I'd like to find a tele or JM thin line bridge humbucker.
Who asked that?
McRickard.
Hey Jeff, do you want like a 335 style body?
333.
Yeah, 333, 335. Do you want a 333 does not have F holes? But then put like a 6-in-line peg head on it and some other weird stuff. The reason I'm asking is I have a 335 body sitting in storage that I'm not doing anything with. So if it's something that you'd be interested in, it's like one of those Chinese things. I bought it off a guy. I was going to build myself a 335. I've never gotten really around to it. Yeah, let me know. As far as custom bodies go, what I would do for that is go over to our Facebook group, the Facebook group, the Dylan Talks Tone Insiders Facebook group, and ask in there, because there's a bunch of guys that have like CNC machines and stuff, and they can cut whatever you want. Like, I know that there's a few people in there. I have some people that I use for this, but
he said he would be interested. So maybe just
get with me
privately.
later, because I might have some ideas for it. Or shoot me a message or call me or something, whatever.
I feel like we just kind of covered this topic, but Tony Davis says my PV Classic 30 is picking up local radio. What could be causing it?
That is definitely some sort of ground issue. You have, definitely some sort of ground issue. Make sure it's your amp though. Like if you have a wah pedal will do it. So if you have other things in your signal chain, first of all, make sure your guitar is quiet. Make sure that it's shielded and stuff. Make sure that your wah pedal is on an isolated power supply. But if it is your amp, I don't know why that happens. I don't know why. But chances are it's not your amp. Chances are it's something else. Wah pedals used to do that really bad. Yeah. Well, because they have a coil in them too. They have a little,
All right, Polo Cash 11 asks best non-locking tuners. I would buy a good set of tele pickups that someone upgraded and you verified good, or other tele stuff. So it looks like they're building something. Big question was best non-locking tuners.
Best non-locking tuners. I like the Clusen Revolutions. They're 19-1. They're really nice. They feel super good. And you can get them with keystones. You can get them with pearl buttons. You can get them with whatever. And then as far as pickups and tele wiring stuff, upgrade stuff, we have all that on our website. And obviously, it's amazing. So,
Super chat.
Ed, now I'm confused. If higher resistance equals less highs, then why 500K pots? Ooh, this is a good question. Okay. If higher resistance equals less highs, then why 500K pots or humbucker? Or am I currently high resistance? Okay. Remember that more resistance is the most resistance you could have is 0 ohms. I know that's backwards, but in our situation, this is okay. How do I explain this? We're talking about the distance of the path to ground. The shorter the path to ground, the higher the resistance. Does that make sense? So if your path to ground is way longer, then more highs will be present. If the path to ground is way shorter, then less highs will be present. This is why when you turn your volume down, no matter if you have 250K pots or 500K pots, when you turn your volume down to 8 or 7 or 6 or 5, you have less highs because now the path to ground is shorter. That's in a voltage divider situation, volume pot. So when you shorten the path to ground, that's when those highs go away. And when you have a higher resistance pot, you're lengthening the path to ground from 250 to 500 to 1 meg. So the longer it is, the longer the path to ground is. I guess that's the easiest way to explain it. We have a video about that. It's actually the most popular video I've ever made. It is Dylan Talks Tone, episode 10, 250K versus 500K pots. And it's terrible. It's 16 minutes long. It was literally 2 weeks after I started my YouTube channel. So not nearly as awesome as my videos lately. But it's really good. The content is really good and you can check it out.
Big Tone says, Dylan, have you ever made a pickup with aluminum wire?
I have not used aluminum or silver because it's not practical. It's not practical. Really, really, really brittle. Super brittle.
Cabayoth says, can your slant 6 humbuckers be adapted to Alnico 8 magnets for the bridge position?
Yes. Order a set. I actually have some Alnico 8 bars in stock right now and I've not used them for anything. I was going to do something with them and I ended up not doing anything with them. So they're sitting in there not being used. So order a set, put in the notes that you can leave notes. Hey, I'm the one on YouTube asked you this question the other day, blah, 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 blah. Can you put an 8 in the bridge? Absolutely, yes I can. That would be awesome.
Somebody just said if this guitar thing doesn't work out, you'd make a great high school science teacher. No, he wouldn't.
No. No, I would not.
That was the end of the list.
Awesome. Well, that's great because we are at
a long time. One last thing. Yeah. Somebody said lipstick pickups. What's the deal with those?
They're awesome and they're really hard to make and I can't stand making them and that's why I don't make them. But they're awesome. The reason I don't make them is because the parts are not reliably available. Every time we have a run on them, they're awesome. Basically all they are is a Firebird bobbin inside of a tube. Pretty much. Usually I use Alnico 4 magnets for those. They're really, really cool pickups. They sound amazing. Little known fact, if you listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan Tin Pan Alley on the record, those are lipstick pickups. And they super clean, really chimey sound, really, really good sound. But the pickup parts, the tubes and the little plate that they bolt to are so unreliably sourced for me that I'll put them on the website. We'll sell 5 or 6 sets of them, or we won't sell any forever. Like nobody, like everybody says, put them on the website, I'll buy them, and then nobody buys them. And then like a year later, I'll sell 1 set, and I'll go to order the parts for them because I don't stock them, and they'll be on back order for 2 months, and it's super impractical. So that's why I don't buy it. I don't make them because they're
right.
Yeah.
Super chat.
Oh,
and then
sweet.
we have a couple things we need to talk about before we cut it off. Go ahead.
0 ohms is no resistance, complete continuity. That is correct. Yeah.
So we were talking about resistance. So
Yeah, so that's why I was trying to explain that correctly. Jeff, you're right. I mean, 0 ohms is no resistance. You are right. But when you shorten the path to 0, that's when your highs go away. That's the easiest way to explain it. So maybe I wasn't being super clear about that. If you can make more space between 0, then you will be able to have more higher frequencies available. Yeah, I guess I was really trying to figure out how to explain that.
And then so Dawn PSY said, I think you're going to make at least top 3 in the GGBO. Compliments from Portugal, and wanted to acknowledge that they were sending hugs from Portugal. And then I think we should talk about this. Nick Falzone just said, I know you did it in an earlier video, but why won't you export to the UK now? Which is no longer true.
We fixed that.
Yes.
We fixed that, and we can export to the UK. The only thing is, this is not a problem. There is a minimum order to ship to the UK. So I think it's $200. If you put stuff in your cart and it does not add up to $200, it will not go there. So you have to spend $200. That's the only difference. So, I mean, 2 pickups is $200,
Yeah.
So it's not that big a deal.
But let us know if you run into any problems, Nick, because we have had to fix some things in the past.
Yes, that was like a whole, the
Yeah.
website didn't work for 2 days, and somebody emailed me, and Leslie had to look at it because she's smarter about some of that stuff than me, and I'm just like, I don't know. Anyway, we got it worked out, I think. So if you try to order and you have issues, please let me know. But you have to order 2 pickups at least. That's how you fix that. Yep.
Cool. That was
This
a long one.
has been super, super fun. Thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out with us. I really, really appreciate everybody that has... I've never met so many Jeffs in one place. Oh, that's awesome. One of these days, when it's less COVID-y, it'll be really cool to have some kind of meet and greet thing. Or a
Jeffrey
couple of
Egan
them.
said there was 5 Jeffs in his class when he was in school.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's funny. Anyway, thanks a lot. I want to say thanks again to Jeff for one of the Jeffs for the beer.
It was delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's already gone. I mean,
Well, you spilled half of it on it.
I didn't spill half of it. I spilled a little bit.
And I also wanted to say, everyone, thank you for all the super chats tonight. I really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody who's following us on Patreon. Please let me know in the next week or so, even if you are not a Patreon member, what you would want to see if you were. Does that make sense? Over there, because I really want to make sure that we're giving everybody as much value as possible. And when I say Patreon, I also mean our YouTube members as well. So please let me know. I will make a post about it, probably on the YouTube feed. And also, make sure that you follow us on Instagram. Haha, there's my Instagram. And also make sure that you join our Facebook group. because a lot of these questions that you ask on a weekly basis or want to know about stuff, I get some ideas from there. So, yeah, man. Thanks so much. This is awesome. And I guess we'll see you